Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are back with a little bit of an older series on the channel. We are back with the How to Beat series, a series where we look to a meta deck and help you guys understand it, beat it, teach you the hows, the whys, the ifs, and fully prepare you to play against one of the most dominant decks of the meta. So in our previous episodes, now this has been a series that haven't been really featured on the channel for a little while. So the videos that are currently in the playlist are like a couple of older decks. Like we featured Drytron, Virtual World, Prankets, and Dragon Link. No, that last deck is dead, so for that deck at least, it definitely counts. For all the other decks, they are a little bit older, so we might have to come back to them later. So yeah, definitely let me know in the comment section what you would like to see on the Versus series. And if you like the new format of the series, because I'm going to do a whole bunch of cool stuff. So we are going to be starting with Tri-Brigade, which is one of the most represented decks of the format. Undeniably powerful, consistent. And yeah, for all of you that don't know what the deck does, I'm going to do a walk through everything the deck does. I'm going to talk about each of the single Tri-Brigade cards that you need to know. And we're also going to talk about the extra deck cards, the main deck cards, options for the main deck to fully prepare you what to do. And I'm also going to do a quick showcase on some of the hands that the deck can do and some of the choke points. So to start off with Tri-Brigade, this is a very interesting deck. Every once in a while, Yu-Gi-Oh! Prints out a new box and we get a new deck, and the deck works. It has a gimmick, and usually they kind of look a lot like each other, but this is the first time that something in Yu-Gi-Oh! Really has been this specific way. So there are 4 Tri-Brigade monsters. There's Nerval, Kit, Fractal, and Caress. They all have the exact same effect, that when they are on the field, you can banish X number of Beast Warriors, or Winged Beast from your graveyard to special summon a Link monster, that's Beast Warrior, or Winged Beast from your extra deck, with a Link rating equal to the number of cards bound. So for example, if you banish 2 copies, 2 Beasts or Beast Warriors or Winged Beasts, you can, for example, sample a Harpy's Conductor, that's her name, or any other thing like the Ancient Warrior Double Dragon Lords, or the Fairy Jit, or the Bear Brum. So this is a very cool, interesting mechanic because they just special summon them. So that means that they completely ignore the summoning conditions. For example, the Ancient Warrior requires to be made with Ancient Warrior monsters, but you can still special summon him with the effect of the Tri-Brigades, which finally makes this card see some form of play. And next to that effect, that all shared effect, they also, every one of them has a single cool bonus effect. So one of the most important cards of the deck is Fractal, being the level 4 monster with 1900 attack. His effect is you can either send him from your hand or field to the graveyard to send another Tri-Brigade from your deck to the graveyard. That's pretty cool. It does have to be a monster. Then we have Kit. When Kit is sent to the graveyard from anywhere, either hand or deck or grave or field, you can Foolish Burial any Tri-Brigade card from your deck. This is also including Spell and Traps, which currently are not really seeing that much play, except for Revolt, of course. Then there's Nerval, and when Nerval is sent to the graveyard from either hand, deck, or field, you can search another Tri-Brigade monster from your deck. And then there's Karas. Karas is the only one that doesn't do anything when he's sent from the grave to the grave. Karas is an effect in hand that you can discard any Beast Warrior, or Winged Beast. Doesn't have to be a Tri-Brigade monster to special summon him. So he's a little bit of the extender, a little bit one of the weirder ones, because all the other ones trigger or activate when they are sent to the graveyard, or they send other cards to the graveyard, and Karas is the only one that requires a little bit of setup to work. Which is why a lot of cards only play double Karas, because he needs way more setup than all the other cards, which are better top deck. Top decking a Fractal, you can send Nerval from your deck to the grave and add a Tri-Brigade that you're missing, and you have fueled 2 Beast Warriors, which is quite nice. So what people used to do back in the day was they activate Fractal, send Kit, send Nerval, add Fractal, and then you have 3 Beast Warriors in the grave. What people are doing nowadays is they realize that you really don't have to waste your Kit early. What a lot of people are doing right now is just send Fractal, send Nerval, add Kit, and then normal summon Kit, link it away, and set the other one to get more fuel going and to be a little bit more resource efficient. As we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Then there's only one more main deck Tri-Brigade card that you need to know about, which is maybe the entire reason why the deck works, which is Tri-Brigade Revolt. Now, Tri-Brigade Revolt lets you special summon back any number of monsters that are either banished or in the graveyard, and after you've special summoned them, you must immediately link summon. Now, we're going to talk about what you can link summon in a little bit, but you can imagine that Soul Charge for 4 is quite insane, but it does need a little bit more context. So without further ado, let's go to the link monsters. There are currently 4 link monsters of the Tri-Brigade archetype. The first 2 are both Link 2, so we have Tri-Brigade Variegated Blossom, and the second one is Tri-Brigade Bearbrum. Variegated Blossom is a really awesome card, only being made with 2 Beast Warrior or Winged Beast, so quite generic. And she has 2 effects. Her first effect is that you can special summon a Beast Warrior or Winged Beast from your hand to the field, which is quite nice, helps with extending. And their second effect is that you can draw a card and then put a card from your hand or deck on the bottom, which is quite nice for cycling, to dig a little bit deeper to your Imperial Order, which is a nice card. Then we have Bearbrum. Bearbrum is one of the best cards and one of the newest cards as well that just got released in Lightning Overdrive. Bearbrum is pretty wild. Bearbrum has the effect, well, her first effect is not even the best, even though it's still good. You can discard 2 cards, target one of your banished Beast Warrior or Winged Beast, and special summon it back to the field. Quite nice, quite nice. Her second effect is kind of better. When she is sent to the graveyard, you can add a Tri-Brigade spell trap from your deck to your hand, and then put a card from your hand to the bottom of the deck. So this is the only way currently to search Revolt, and we're going to talk about why Revolt is broken in 2 monsters. There's only one Link 3 in the deck, which is Rugal, which is not the best of all the Tri-Brigades. It still has its uses, and you still need to play at least a single copy. Again, he also has 2 effects. During your opponent's main phase, you can special summon a Tri-Brigade monster from your graveyard to your field, and in the end phase it gets bounced back to your hand. Kind of a niche effect. Kind of weird that it's only in your opponent's main phase, so you cannot even do it in the end phase, so it's potentially like you have a Rugal and then you're like, okay, I guess end of main, I'll summon it back, and then you can maybe run it to a Talents or something. So that may not be the best. His second effect is when he's leaving the field, you can make all your opponent's monsters lose 300 attack and defense to each type you have on your field. It's also kind of weird that it has that random effect, but you know, whatever, we take those. But the main reason why you have to play Rugal is because there are a lot of hands where you cannot really extend that much. And then you have, for example, if you have 4 spell traps and a Fractal, you can discard Fractal, send Nerval, add Kit, normal Kit, banish 2, summon Bearbrum, link Bearbrum and the Kit away for the Rugal. Which is stuff that I'm going to show you later as well, so definitely just stay tuned for that. But just a quick explanation. So you do have to play 1 Rugal. And the last card is where things get kind of interesting, because the last card is a Link 4, which is Shuraig. Shuraig requires Beast Warrior or Winged Beast as material. When Shuraig is special summoned, you can banish a card on the field, which doesn't target. But it's not only when he is special summoned. Once per turn, when either he is summoned or a Tri-Brigade is special summoned to your field, you can banish a card on the field. So that's pretty nice, because you can quite easily make access to him and get future use out of him. So of course the main way to summon this card is just simply with Revolt, to summon him in your opponent's turn and banish a card on the field. But you do have to think a little bit better than that, because you have made your setup, you know, you've made your Bearbrum, so you have your Rugal. You activate your Revolt, there's a lot of cards you can summon back. You can summon back the Nerval, and when he's sent to the grave, you can search a card. You can send Kit, which fully burials a card, maybe a Bearbrum or a Variegated Blossom to draw a card or to get the Tri-Brigade going. And if you summon all those monsters back, you can easily chain block Shuraig. So Revolt turns into a Soul Charge that banishes and searches a card. Which is kind of ridiculous. So that's the main gist of the deck. Now, Shuraig does have a second effect, which sometimes comes up. When he is leaving the field, you can search a Beast Warrior or Winged Beast from your deck to your hand with a level equal to the amount of banished Beast Warrior or Winged Beast cards. So there does get a lot of managing back. You don't want to just summon 4 banished cards to get more fuel going, because in case he leaves the field, you do want to add another card. But that again also really comes back with like the playability of the deck. So for example, when you summoned him, you searched your Caress, and you only left 1 Beast Warrior or Winged Beast banished, and then he gets removed from the field, which means his effect activates, so you can search either something like a DD Crow, or something like a Nerval. So then your hand is Karas Nerval, and you have the perfect follow-up for the next turn, which is quite insane. So those were all the Tri-Brigade cards. And yeah, I'm gonna show a couple of replays in a bit as well, to really show you how the deck works, kind of show you the goals. And yeah, after that we're gonna talk a little bit about decks to expect, kind of, you know, other main deck card or other extra deck cards that they are playing. So yeah, let's go into that. Alright, so let's start with the hand that we were talking about earlier, which is just Fractal. We're going to activate the Fractal. Now here you can send a kit. There's really no reason to do that already. So we're gonna send the Nerval, and Nerval will proceed to then add the kit. So the kit will help with a little bit of follow-up play, to get more resources to the grave. Then we're gonna normal summon the kit. Banish 2 Beast Warriors or Winged Beasts to get the Rampager going. Then we're going to link the Bearbrum away together with the kit for the before mentioned Rugal, which will make Bearbrum and kit activate. Kit can just send another Fractal since it's not really the best in the early game. But we do want to send it to have a little bit more follow-up. We're going to add the Revolt. Then we're going to bottom deck one of the cards in our hand. So then we set Revolt. And then in our opponent's turn, you can summon back everything. And then make a Link 4. Chaining 1, Shurake, Chaining 2, Nerval. Now the Shurake is chain blocked as well. So you have some protection. Or if you want to get the Surge going, because there's not a lot that's going to stop the Shurake from activating, you can do the chains in a different way as well. So one thing to note though, before we go into the next testing hand, is that you cannot summon back the monsters that are special summons by defect, because they were never properly summoned, which is a mechanic in Yu-Gi-Oh! So don't get cheated on, don't get your rulings right, you cannot summon these monsters back with the Revolt. So for the next hand, we're just gonna have a Fractal and kit. We're gonna do the exact same thing again, sending the Nerval, but Nerval will now instead add something entirely different, like the Kuras. Then we can normal summon the kit, activate kit's effect. You do have to watch out with your zones a little bit, because all the Tribrigades have arrows to here or here. So we can just summon the Ferrigit right there. Then we can use the effect of Ferrigit, summon the Kuras. Now there are a couple of things that you can do here. What we're going to do right here is link these two away for a Rampager. Proceed to link these two away for Appaloosa. Now we can have the Appaloosa for 2, and we can have the Bearbrum, and we also have the Ferrigit as well for the additional draw. So we again have our entire setup, and now we can actually monster or reborn the Bearbrum. For the last hand that I did want to show you guys, it's something a little bit more insane, which is just the full combo hand where you have like a Karas and a Fractal already. So we're gonna, or anything that you are missing, you can just add it with the Nerval here. So for example, with this Nerval, we can add a couple of cards. But for now, I'm just gonna add the other Fractal. Summon the Fractal. Activate the effect of Fractal. Get the Rampager out. Then we activate Caress. Kit will activate. Sending another. Here it kinda is weird because you already have the 2, so we might as well send like either a Nerval or anything else. But we're gonna just use it as fodder. And when the Caress resolves, it's gonna summon over there, not in the link pointer, which is something that I was just talking about and now I'm missing already. Here we can activate the Caress for 2. To, for example, summon out our double Dragon Lords as an extra interrupt. And now we have these 4 bodies that we can use for an Appaloosa. And now the Bearbrum will activate. and that's it. So as for ratios, kind of things that you can expect in the deck, triple Fractal, triple Kit, triple Nerval. Some people play 3, but I do think that 2 is the most optional way to play this, and then there's triple Revolt. So that's always the standard package. Not really one of the biggest packages, so that leaves a lot of open room. They can play a bunch of consistency cards like the Desires and the Tanky, and also a lot of defensive options like the Call by the Grave, for example. Then they can run a lot of hand traps. Now these are the ones that are currently in my deck, but you can also expect Bells or Gammas, which is really popular, but that's a little bit more popular with different builds. Also going to talk about later. For more protection, they can run a lot of good traps, because hand traps plus traps really work well this format. And Imperial Order has to be on literally every deck in order for your deck to be viable at this format, at least. Now that you kind of know what's in a normal Tri-Brigade deck list, there are also a couple of engines that they can play to help them out. Like the Zodiacs are getting more popular again, even though that Trident is now banned. There are also a lot of Rescue Cat builds, which really use the power of Rescue Cat and Gamma together to blow out your opponent and set up all your resources and have an easy way to combo off. So yeah, definitely most of the cards in the deck are almost always the same, so you are kind of prepared to understand, what you're gonna be facing up against. Now, how do you beat this deck? Because now that you know the deck and know how it works and the understandings of the deck, there are a couple of choke points in this deck that are quite huge, if you ask me. So, as you've seen, as we've played out the combos, they have their normal summon, then they have their caress, which are the really 2 only ways they can start banishing and start advancing their plays, which means that those are 2 huge choke points. There's a third way to extend, which is the Ferrigid, which is kind of a 2.5 way because it does require setup, but they only have those first initial 2 ways to get out their link monsters. If you prevent the link monsters from coming down, you're gonna have a quite easy time, unless they hard rule Revolt. But if they hard rule Revolt, I guess that's kind of sad. But you do prevent them from getting additional monsters on the board like Appaloosa. So stuff like Effect Failure, Infinite Impermanence are cards that are really, really solid this format. A card that you would think would be good, something like Artifact Lancia, but it's kind of really, really niche because they can still link someone, make plays, and try to get their Revolt live, and it doesn't really hard stop their turn like you may want it to. So that's also something to kind of think ahead about. Like there's no really easy way to just make this deck stop, because they can always just hard roll the Revolt or other good traps to help defend and have then their follow-up. But wasting their resources by using Effect Failure, making them banish for a cost, then activating Effect Failure, then they extend with the Karasa, then Effect Failure again, then it's going to be a little bit more difficult for them to start efficiently playing. Another card that's very solid against this deck is Ghost Bell, because their most important card definitely is Revolt, and Ghost Bell is a card that can negate Revolt. But however, you do have to notice that a lot of the time on the board there will be an Appaloosa to deal with, and Appaloosa can negate the Bell. So that's kind of, a little bit of an option. For example, if your hand is something like a Bell and an Imperm, you can easily just play around everything. Like you can just let them make their plays, let them make them add Revolt, let them make Appaloosa, and then in your end phase, you can just activate Imperm and start playing in your turn without any fear for the Revolt, because you do have the Bell. Cards that are also quite good against this deck are seeing a little bit more play this meta, which is something like Forbidden Chalice is really, really good. So you can, of course, use Chalice on the Appaloosa, but you can also use Chalice on the Shurake that they summon with their Revolt to also prevent the banishing from happening, and just continue playing like nothing happened and they only link summoned a vanilla 3400 attack monster, but that's outable and you don't get interrupted. So Forbidden Chalice is a card that's actually really, really good this format. It's also quite good against the other decks this format, like the Drytron decks. It's also good against Virtual World with the Crystal Wing or with the Shen Shen, and it's also quite good against Brankets because you can just negate the face-up Battle Butler, which is also quite nice, which are a lot of decks that are very popular in this format. Cards like Droplets also kind of work, but you do have to note that there's probably an Appaloosa to do with and then a Shurake, so they are not both on the field at the same time, so you cannot really get the maximum value out of your droplets, and it's like the game gets kind of in a weird state. Kind of depends on what your deck's playing, but definitely cards like Chalice and Droplets definitely can have their bang out of their buck. And another card that's actually quite overperforming against this deck that I found is Evenly Matched, because they don't really have spell and trap negation, and you do have to make them choose like between all their trap cards and their Revolt and their Appaloosa, and it's kind of awkward for them if you just go, oh yeah, you have set 3 Appaloosa, alright, battle phase. Make them force that choice out, and that's also quite significant in this format, which kind of surprised me when I was playing the deck. I got Evenly a couple of times, and every time I was like, this is actually like low-key really, really good against this deck. Now, for other cards that you might deck in this format, something like DD Crow really doesn't work against the deck, because if it's banished or not, it's still a resource. Lightning Storm is another card that's been getting more and more popular these days, because there are a lot of decks that do set 3 cards, so you can get that value out of your cards. But back row removal in general is really, really strong, because the only real way for Shurake to banish it is if another Tri-Brigade is special summoned. So they have to have a Rugal to summon one from grave to make the Shurake that they summoned live. But you can easily just start forcing out back row with it. And, you know, if you activate Cyclone at the start of your May phase, okay, let them summon their Shurake and it doesn't banish anything. And then, you know, and then what is the deck already realistically going to do? So yeah, those are just some cards that you can play. Another card, for example, something like Ash works really well in the Nerval. Skullmeister, also getting very popular this meta versus the Brankits deck, but it's also good to negate the Nerval. Just try to a little bit play around what you're doing, because you don't really want to run into an unexpected Gamma and insta lose the game there. And because Fractal is definitely one of the easiest ways to start playing. But after that, it's just really easy. Just try to negate their monsters, let them banish for cost, and then Bell the Revolt, and they are completely out of the game. This deck is strong, this deck is versatile, this deck is consistent, it is scary, it can kill you. Really, really easy to the power of summoning a Link 3 and then making access Code Talker, having a whole bunch of attributes in the graveyard. Shurake overall is already a very strong boss monster. This deck is very versatile, very different from what you are used to, but it's definitely not unbeatable. So yeah, keep your head in the game, know exactly what all these cards do, and prepare yourself for the next tournament. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.